"You can't come, scum." My phone screen glowed with those 4 words, and my stomach twisted into a knot. The message was from Amber Wilson, the same girl who had made my high school years a living nightmare. I stared at my rejected request to join the reunion Facebook page, knowing everyone could see it. The shame burned through me like fire. This reunion was my one chance to reconnect with old friends, to show I'd moved on from those horrible years. Now I was the only one not invited. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the mix of hurt and anger racing through me. 10 years later, and Amber was still treating me like I was nothing. Like I didn't belong. My finger hovered over the delete button. Part of me wanted to forget I ever saw this message. Another part wanted to scream back at her. Instead, I took a screenshot, saved it to my phone, and deleted the original message. I placed my phone face down on the coffee table and closed my eyes. The quiet of my living room felt heavy now. Outside, rain tapped against the windows, matching the hollow feeling in my chest. What did I expect? That high school drama would magically disappear after graduation? I picked up my phone again, looking at that screenshot one more time before I went to bed. Memories of high school flooded back like a bad dream. Amber's cruel laugh echoing down the hallway, the whispered taunts as I walked to class. The time she tripped me in the cafeteria, sending my lunch tray flying while everyone watched. But worst was the rumor she started in senior year. Apparently, I was the smart slut who got pregnant during spring break. The rumor spread like wildfire, and suddenly people who'd been friendly before started avoiding me. Teachers looked at me differently. Parents whispered at school events. The truth? I had been working extra shifts at the mall to help my mom with bills. I wasn't even dating anyone. But Amber made sure no one believed me. I graduated early and left town as soon as I could. I needed a fresh start. Now Amber was an influencer and event planner according to her profile. Of course she'd be in charge of our high school reunion. Her glossy photos showed someone who looked successful and happy. The perfect life she always bragged she'd have. I scrolled through her Instagram, seeing her perfect smile, her perfect outfits, her perfect life. Each picture felt like a little jab to my heart. She had everything she wanted, including the power to keep me away from our reunion. But something inside me hardened. I wasn't that scared teenager anymore. I paced around my kitchen, coffee in hand, as morning light streamed through the windows. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Why should I let Amber keep me away? I was an alumna just like everyone else. I had every right to be there. This wasn't even about nostalgia anymore. It was about standing up for myself, something I wished I'd done more of back then. It was about closure. I picked up my phone and called Marcus, the old classmate who'd first told me about the reunion. He had always been kind to me, even during the worst of the rumors. "Marcus, it's Darcy. Listen, I need a favor." I explained what happened with Amber, his voice filled with concern. "That's messed up, Darcy. Everyone should be welcome. It's our reunion, not hers." "I'm thinking of just showing up anyway," I admitted. There was a pause before he answered. "You know what? You should. Half the people there probably miss you and have no idea what Amber's doing." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Someone was on my side. "Thanks, Marcus. Really." After we hung up, I stood taller. I'd go to that reunion. Not to cause drama, but because I deserved to be there. I'd worked too hard to let Amber push me around again. That night, Marcus sent me his login for the reunion Facebook page. I knew it was probably wrong to snoop, but I needed to see what I was walking into. The page was filled with cheerful posts about the upcoming event. People sharing old photos, asking who was coming, reminiscing about silly things we did as teenagers. It felt warm and nostalgic, until I saw Amber's post. "OMG, did you believe that slut Darcy tried to RSVP? As if we'd want her there, lol." My hands trembled as I scrolled through the comments. Amber's old clique was laughing along, adding cruel jokes about me. A few people defended me, including Marcus, but they were quickly shut down by Amber's followers. I felt sick. 10 years later, and she was still spreading poison about me. But worse than that, people were still listening to her. I clicked through to her profile and saw she was hosting the event at a place called the Winslow Pavilion. According to her posts, it was a posh event center owned by her father. The school wouldn't allow alcohol at official functions, so they had to move it off campus. The name sounded familiar somehow. The Winslow Pavilion. Why did I know that name? I closed the laptop, my mind racing. Something about this venue was important, but I couldn't remember why. I spent the morning trying to place where I'd heard of the Winslow Pavilion before. It nagged at me like a loose thread I couldn't stop pulling. I Googled it and found their website. The place looked fancy, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, the kind of venue rich families used for weddings and corporate events. Exactly the type of place Amber would choose to show off. According to the website, it was located just outside of town, in that wealthy neighborhood where all the big houses sat on perfectly manicured lawns, where Amber's family lived. I scrolled through the pictures, examining every detail. Then I noticed something on their About Us page, a small for sale notice at the bottom. The Winslow Pavilion was on the market. That's when it clicked. I'd seen it mentioned in a commercial real estate listing last week. I hadn't paid much attention to it then, but now I tapped my fingers on my desk, thinking, why would Amber's dad be selling his precious event center? The one thing he was supposedly so proud of? The business he had bragged would be Amber's legacy? Something didn't add up. And suddenly, I felt like I needed to know more about this sale. Much more. I called my assistant, Emma, right away. Can you look into a property for me? The Winslow Pavilion. It's for sale, and I want to know why. Emma was used to my random requests. As my right-hand person at the firm, she knew how to get information fast. On it, boss. Anything specific you're looking for? Everything. Owner details, asking price, how long it's been on the market, and any financial records you can dig up. I tried to focus on other work while I waited, but my mind kept drifting back to the reunion, to Amber's cruel words, to the past I thought I'd left behind. 3 hours later, Emma called back. You're going to want to see this, she said. The owner, Robert Winslow, is in serious debt, multiple loans against the property. He's trying to unload it fast before the bank takes it. My heart raced as she sent over the files. I scrolled to the seller information, and my stomach dropped. Robert Winslow. Amber's father. The man who had looked down on my family for years, who had told his daughter not to associate with trash like me. The man whose house Amber had bragged about while my mom and I struggled to keep our small apartment. And now he was desperate to sell. Few people know the real me these days. To most, I'm just Darcy Miller, the woman who built Mountain Peak Real Estate from nothing. My firm now handles the biggest commercial deals in 3 states. My name is on buildings, my face is in business magazines, and I did it all as a single mom. After high school, I discovered I really was pregnant, not during spring break like Amber claimed, but later, after graduation. The father wanted nothing to do with us. My daughter Lily became my whole world. I got my real estate license while working nights at a hotel. I saved every penny. I networked at every opportunity. I studied the market until I could predict trends before they happened. When Lily was 3, I made my first big commercial sale. By the time she was 5, I had my own small office. At 7, I had a team of agents working for me. Now she's 10, and I run the largest commercial real estate firm in the region. I've never flaunted my success. I've never needed to. The work speaks for itself. The results speak for themselves. Amber had no idea who she was dealing with when she sent that message. No idea that the scum she was rejecting had more money, influence, and power than she could imagine. I looked at the Winslow Pavilion listing again, calculating numbers in my head. Then I picked up my phone. Emma set up a meeting with Robert Winslow. Tell him I'm interested in his property. Robert Winslow didn't recognize me when we met at his office. Why would he? The last time he saw me, I was a teenage girl he considered beneath his daughter's social circle. Now I sat across from him in a tailored suit, my hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, projecting confidence and wealth. He saw only what I wanted him to see, a potential buyer with deep pockets. Ms. Miller, I can't tell you how pleased we are that you're interested in the pavilion, he said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. It's been in our family for 30 years. It's a beautiful venue, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Though I'm curious why you're selling such a family treasure. His smile faltered. Market changes. Time to diversify our investments. A lie. According to my research, he was drowning in debt. 3 failed business ventures and a gambling problem had left him desperate. I understand, I said, not letting on that I knew the truth. I'd like to see the property this afternoon if possible. Of course, I'd be happy to show you around. As we shook hands, I couldn't help but think how life had come full circle. The man who once looked down on my family now needed me more than I'd ever needed him. The Winslow Pavilion was even more impressive in person. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking perfectly landscaped gardens. The kind of place that breathed old money and privilege. Robert showed me every corner, desperately highlighting features I already knew from my research. I could see the panic behind his forced smile. He needed this sale. After the tour, I made my decision. I'd like to make an offer, I said. His eyes lit up. Wonderful, let's discuss terms. My offer was fair but firm. I'd pay the asking price, but I needed the deal to close quickly, the day before the reunion. I pretended it was about quarterly tax advantages. He didn't question it. That evening I called my lawyer. Draw up the papers. I'm buying the Winslow Pavilion. She didn't ask why. That's what I paid her for, to handle the details without questions. The next morning I signed the initial agreement and wired the down payment. Everything was set in motion. As Robert signed his part, he looked up nervously. There's one thing. My daughter is hosting an event the day after closing. Her high school reunion. Could we possibly keep the reservation? Of course, I said, smiling. Relief washed over his face. Thank you. My daughter worked so hard on this event. I bet she has, I thought, planning who to include, who to exclude, who to humiliate. It's no trouble at all, I said. No trouble at all. With the sale in progress, I decided to try one more time to RSVP properly for the reunion. Perhaps seeing my name on legal documents had given Robert a change of heart about me. Maybe he'd said something to Amber. I was wrong. A new message appeared on my phone that evening. We're at capacity. Try again next time, slut. I stared at the words, feeling that old hurt try to resurface. But this time, something else pushed through instead. Laughter. I actually laughed out loud in my empty kitchen. The absurdity of it all. Here I was, about to own the very building where Amber thought she could exclude me. Here she was, still thinking she had all the power. She had no idea what was coming. I wasn't going to crash her party. I was going to own it. Literally. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. In just a few days, the tables would turn completely. The girl who once had all the social power would learn what real power looked like. Not that I wanted revenge exactly. I just wanted Amber to see me, really see me, to understand that the person she'd dismissed as nothing had become something extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted her to feel just a fraction of the humiliation she'd once made me feel. The day before the reunion, everything became official. The final papers were signed, the money transferred, the deed recorded. The Winslow Pavilion was mine. I sat in my office, looking at the documents, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Satisfaction, yes, but also a kind of peace I hadn't expected. This wasn't just about Amber anymore. This was about reclaiming something that had been taken from me, my dignity, my sense of belonging. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert Winslow. Thank you again. My daughter's event is tomorrow. I'm grateful you're allowing it. I typed back, it's no trouble. What I didn't say was that I planned to be there. What I didn't say was that his daughter had no idea who now owned the building she'd be strutting around in tomorrow night. I called my babysitter to confirm she could stay overnight with Lily. Then I called Marcus. Everything set for tomorrow? He asked. More than you know, I replied. Just make sure you're there early. I want a friendly face when I arrive. Count on it, he said. Half the class is actually excited you might show up. Amber's been acting weird about the whole thing. I smiled. Well, she's in for a surprise. That night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety, but from anticipation. Tomorrow wouldn't just be a high school reunion. It would be my reintroduction to the world I'd left behind, on my terms this time. The day of the reunion arrived. I decided if I was going to do this, I'd go all out. No more blending into the background. No more hiding. I spent the morning at the salon, getting my hair done in loose waves that framed my face. The stylist worked magic, transforming my usual practical look into something glamorous but still elegant. Next came makeup, subtle but flawless, enough to enhance my features without looking like I was trying too hard. Finally, the dress. I'd spent weeks finding the perfect one, a deep blue that hugged my curves without being too showy. Sophisticated, powerful, confident. As I slipped on my heels and checked my reflection one last time, the stylist grinned at me. "You look like revenge in heels," she said with a wink. I smiled back. "Let's see if scum can slay." Back home, I kissed Lily goodbye, promising to tell her all about my old school friends tomorrow. My babysitter gave me a thumbs up as I headed out the door. "You look amazing, Miss Miller." In my car, I took a deep breath. 10 years ago, I left that town with nothing but shame and fear. Tonight, I was returning as someone new, someone stronger. I checked my purse one last time. Inside was a copy of the deed to the Winslow Pavilion, my secret weapon. It was showtime. I arrived fashionably late. From my car, I could see the Winslow Pavilion lit up like a jewel box against the night sky. Cars filled the parking lot, expensive ones, mostly. People in fancy clothes streamed through the front doors. Through the windows, I spotted Amber immediately. She wore a tight pink dress that sparkled under the chandeliers. Her blonde hair was piled high on her head, and she carried a clipboard, darting from group to group. Always the center of attention, always in control. She looked exactly like the person she'd always wanted to be, successful, admired, in charge. The queen bee, still ruling her little hive. I watched her laugh with old classmates, adjust a flower arrangement, direct a waiter carrying champagne. This was her moment of glory, her big show of success. And I was about to change everything. I checked my makeup in the rearview mirror one last time, applied a fresh coat of lipstick, took 3 deep breaths. Then I stepped out of my car and walked toward the entrance, head held high. Music drifted through the open doors, laughter, the clink of glasses, a reunion, a homecoming, but not the one Amber had planned. As I reached the entrance, I texted Marcus, "I'm here." His reply came instantly, "Front bar, ready when you are." I stepped inside, ready to face my past. The moment I walked in, heads turned. Conversations paused. People whispered, "Is that Darcy?" She wasn't on the list. Didn't Amber say she couldn't come? I ignored the whispers and walked further into the room, scanning faces for friendly ones. Some people smiled hesitantly, others looked away, embarrassed. 10 years hadn't erased the rumors Amber had spread about me. Marcus appeared at my side, giving me a quick hug. "You made it, and wow, you look amazing." Before I could answer, a flash of pink cut through the crowd. Amber, her face twisted with anger, stormed toward us. "You weren't invited," she hissed, quiet enough that only those nearby could hear. "How did you even get in?" I smiled calmly. "Oh, I own the building. Thought I'd stop by." Her perfectly made-up face froze. For a second, she looked like she might laugh, thinking I was joking. "Excuse me? I own this building," I repeated, louder this time. "The Winslow Pavilion. I bought it yesterday." People around us fell silent, straining to hear. Amber's eyes narrowed. "That's not possible. This is my father's building." "Not anymore," I said simply. The look of confusion on her face was worth every penny I'd paid. "I own this place," Amber insisted, her voice rising. "My dad owns it, and someday, it'll be mine." I reached into my purse and pulled out the folded deed, handing it to her with a steady hand. "Here, see for yourself." Amber snatched the paper and unfolded it, her eyes scanning the document. I watched as her expression changed from annoyance to confusion to shock. She saw my name, clearly printed as the new owner, her face drained of color. "What is this?" she whispered. "Exactly what it looks like. I purchased the Winslow Pavilion from your father. The sale closed yesterday." Her eyes darted up to mine, searching for some sign that this was a joke. Finding none, she fumbled for her phone. "Dad?" she said when he answered, her voice shaking. "Is it true? Did you sell the pavilion to Darcy Miller?" I couldn't hear his response, but I didn't need to. The way her face crumpled told me everything. The venue was no longer her father's, it was mine. All around us people were watching, confused but intrigued by the drama unfolding. Some had their phones out, recording the moment. Amber looked at me with a mix of hatred and disbelief. "Why?" she demanded. "Why would you do this?" It was the question I'd been waiting for. "Why?" Amber repeated, her voice cracking. "This is my inheritance, my future, everything my family built." She was unraveling in front of everyone, her carefully crafted image falling apart. The clipboard slipped from her fingers, clattering to the marble floor. "No," she cried, louder now. "No. This isn't happening." People were definitely filming now. Dozens of phones pointed our way as Amber's meltdown continued. "Your father needed to sell," I said calmly. "I made a fair offer." "You did this on purpose," she shouted, drawing even more attention. "You knew about the reunion. You planned this." I remained perfectly calm, letting her spiral. There was no need for me to raise my voice or lose my cool. Amber was doing all the work for me. "You've ruined everything," she continued, mascara starting to run down her cheeks. "This was supposed to be my night, my event." Someone from her old clique tried to pull her away, whispering in her ear, but Amber shook them off. "Don't touch me. Do you know what she did? She stole my family's business. She's trying to humiliate me." The irony seemed lost on her, that she who had worked so hard to humiliate me was now falling apart because she felt humiliated. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The crowd had grown, forming a circle around us. Whispers rippled through the room. This wasn't the happy reunion anyone had expected. I stepped forward, gently taking the microphone from the nearby DJ stand. The music had stopped. All eyes were on me. 10 years ago, I began, my voice steady. I was bullied out of this school. Called names, laughed at, made to feel worthless. The room fell completely silent. When I tried to RSVP to this reunion, I was told I wasn't welcome, that I was, and I quote, scum. Gasps from the crowd, eyes turning to Amber, who stood frozen, mascara streaking her face. "I wonder," I continued, "if I still seem like scum now?" I placed the microphone back on the stand and turned to face Amber directly. "I didn't buy this building to hurt you, Amber. I bought it because it was a good investment. But I won't lie, there's a certain poetry to the situation." People were nodding. Some looked shocked, others seemed impressed. "The reunion can continue," I announced to the room. "Everyone is welcome." Including me. A few people clapped, then more joined in. Soon, most of the room was applauding, not just for my words, but for the quiet dignity with which I'd delivered them. Amber stood alone in the center, the queen bee without her hive. Amber wasn't done. She lunged for the microphone, her movements jerky with panic. "She's lying," she cried, her voice echoing through the speakers. "Darcy Miller has always been manipulative. She's trying to ruin my reputation because she's jealous of me." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. No one was buying it. "She got pregnant in high school because she was sleeping around," Amber continued desperately. "She's always been trash. And now she's trying to take away everything my family built." Her old friends edged away from her, clearly embarrassed by her outburst. The crowd's sympathy had shifted entirely to me. "Amber," I said quietly, not needing the microphone to be heard in the silent room. "It's over." She stared at me, mascara streaking down her face, her perfect image completely shattered. "You can't do this to me," she whispered, but there was no fight left in her voice. One of her friends finally stepped forward, taking her arm gently. "Come on, Amber, let's get some air." As they led her away, Amber looked back at me one last time. In her eyes, I saw something unexpected, not just anger or humiliation, but fear. The fear of someone who suddenly realized they weren't as powerful as they thought. I'd never wanted to make anyone afraid, but I couldn't deny that seeing Amber finally face consequences felt like justice. As Amber was led outside, the crowd began to buzz with excited whispers. Marcus appeared at my side, phone in hand. "This is wild," he said, showing me his screen. "Someone just uploaded a clip of what happened. It's already getting shared like crazy." I looked at the video titled, "High School Bully Melts Down at Reunion When Tables Turn." It already had hundreds of views, and the count was climbing rapidly. Marcus's girlfriend, Sarah, joined us. I added commentary explaining the whole situation, she admitted. "How Amber bullied you back then and tried to keep you out of the reunion. I hope that's okay." I nodded, surprised by how quickly everything was spreading. By tomorrow, everyone would know what happened here tonight. Amber's carefully curated image would be replaced by this new one, the bully who couldn't handle being stood up to. "Let's get you a drink," Marcus said, leading me toward the bar. "You deserve it after that showdown." As we moved through the crowd, people patted my back, gave me thumbs up, whispered congratulations. The same people who had once avoided me in high school hallways now wanted to be associated with me. It was strange how quickly the social tide could turn, how fragile Amber's power had always been. I accepted a glass of champagne, watching as the party slowly returned to normal. The music started again. People began to dance. My phone buzzed. Another notification about the viral video. Throughout the evening, old classmates approached me one by one. Some were embarrassed. Others were in awe. All of them had something to say. "I'm so sorry about what happened back then, Darcy. I should have stood up for you. I was just afraid of Amber. I can't believe how you handled that. So classy." Each apology, each conversation, felt like another brick lifting off my shoulders. Years of hurt were being acknowledged, not erased, but somehow made lighter by recognition. Jessica, who had once been one of Amber's closest friends, pulled me aside near the dessert table. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice low. "I knew Amber was lying about you back then. We all did, really, but she had this power over everyone. If you weren't with her, you were against her." I nodded, understanding all too well. "I was a coward," Jessica continued, "and I'm truly sorry." I touched her arm gently. We were all just kids trying to survive high school. More people approached, more apologies, more stories of how they had been too scared to cross Amber. It seemed her reign of social terror hadn't just affected me. For the first time, I realized that by standing up to her, I had freed not just myself but many others from her shadow. The night was turning into something I never expected, a true healing. As midnight approached, I found myself surrounded by people who genuinely seemed happy I was there. The awkwardness had faded. Old friendships were being rekindled. New connections were forming. Someone handed me a fresh glass of champagne, suggesting I make a toast. I hadn't planned for this, but the words came easily. I tapped my glass and the room quieted. "To growth," I said, raising my glass high, "to healing, and to never letting bullies decide where you belong." "To Darcy," someone shouted, and the crowd echoed the sentiment. As everyone drank, I caught sight of Amber standing in a corner, watching. She'd cleaned up her makeup and composed herself, but the damage was done. She looked small somehow, diminished. For a moment our eyes met across the room. I expected to see hatred there, but instead I saw something that looked almost like respect. Maybe even a hint of regret. I gave her a small nod. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. We had both changed over the years, though in very different ways. She nodded back, then slipped out a side door. The party continued around me, joyful and nostalgic. For the first time in 10 years, I felt like I truly belonged in this place, with these people from my past. I belonged not because anyone gave me permission, but because I had claimed my space. The aftermath of the reunion was bigger than I could have imagined. By Monday morning, the video had over 1 million views. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications, messages, and interview requests. Emma called with surprising news. "The Winslow Pavilion is suddenly booked solid for the next 6 months," she reported. "Everyone wants to host their event at that place from the viral video. We're going to be profitable much faster than projected." I laughed, amazed at the unexpected business boost. What had started as a personal stand against Amber had turned into a smart financial move. Meanwhile, Amber's carefully crafted online brand was crumbling. Sponsors were pulling out of her influencer deals. Her event planning business was losing clients. No one wanted to work with the woman from the viral meltdown video. I didn't take pleasure in her downfall, exactly. But I couldn't deny the symmetry of it. She had tried to destroy my reputation once. Now her own reputation was in tatters because of her own actions. That afternoon, a notification popped up on my phone. A direct message from Amber? "We need to talk. Please, I'm begging you to make a statement defending me. Just say it wasn't as bad as it looked." I read the message 3 times. Then I closed the app without replying. Some lessons needed to be learned the hard way. Months passed. The viral moment faded from public memory, but its effects lingered. Amber's influencer career never recovered. Her posts, once flooded with adoring comments, now attracted mostly criticism or worse, indifference. She tried rebranding herself as misunderstood, but the internet has a long memory for public meltdowns. I kept busy running my company and focusing on Lily, who had just started middle school. The Winslow Pavilion was thriving under new management I'd hired. I rarely thought about Amber anymore. Then one evening, a new message appeared in my inbox. From Amber. "I've lost everything," she wrote. My sponsors, my followers, my business contacts. No one will hire me as an event planner now. Please, Darcy, I'm asking for your help. It was strange to see her so desperate, so humble. The girl who once had everything was now asking me, the girl she had called scum, for mercy. Part of me wanted to ignore her again, to let her face the consequences of her actions without my intervention. But another part remembered how it felt to be at rock bottom, with nowhere to turn. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat with the message, thinking about forgiveness, redemption, and what I really wanted from this situation. Not revenge, never that. Just acknowledgement, and perhaps if possible, growth, for both of us. A week later, Robert Winslow requested a meeting. He looked older, tired, when he sat across from me in my office. "Thank you for seeing me, Miss Miller," he said formally, the pride gone from his voice. "I've come to apologize for how my family treated yours. We wrong." I nodded, appreciating the effort it must have taken for him to say those words. "And," he continued hesitantly, "I wanted to ask about my daughter. Event management is all she's ever known. She would be the best manager for the pavilion, I guarantee it. She just needs a chance to secure her future." I leaned back in my chair, considering his words. Was this another attempt at manipulation? Or was it a father genuinely trying to help his daughter? "Mr. Winslow," I said finally, "I don't doubt your daughter's skills, but I can't hire someone who doesn't respect others, who has shown such poor judgment." He nodded, accepting my response. "However," I continued, "if she wants the job, she can ask me herself." His eyes widened slightly. "You'd consider it?" "I'd consider having a conversation," I clarified, "but it needs to come from her, directly. No more hiding behind her father or her old status." He stood, offering his hand. "Thank you, that's more than fair." As he left, I wondered if Amber would take the opportunity. If she was capable of humbling herself enough to ask for help. Only time would tell. Amber showed up at my office the following week. She wore a simple black dress, professional, understated, nothing like her usual flashy style. Her hands trembled slightly as she sat across from me. "Thank you for seeing me," she began, her voice quiet. I waited, giving her space to continue. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for everything, for high school, for the rumors, for trying to exclude you from the reunion. I was cruel to you." The words seemed to cost her, but they also sounded sincere. "Why?" I asked simply. She looked down at her hands. "Because you were everything I wasn't. Smart, genuine, kind. People liked you for you. They only liked me because they were afraid not to." It was perhaps the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. "I need this job," she admitted. "But more than that, I need to make things right." I studied her face, looking for any sign of manipulation. Finding none, I nodded slowly. "You can manage the pavilion, on a trial basis, under my leadership." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Later that evening, after everyone had gone home, I visited the pavilion alone. I walked through the silent halls, my footsteps echoing on the marble floors. I stood on the stage where the DJ had been during the reunion, looking out at the empty room. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't scared. I had faced my past and come out stronger. I hadn't just attended the reunion. I had owned it in every way that mattered.